All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something that I think is on a lot of people's minds these days: AI and the future of work. We're looking at excerpts from the AI Revolution report by the SW and Associates think tank, and honestly, it's got me thinking a lot about what gives our lives meaning. Like when traditional jobs start to disappear, what happens to that sense of purpose? Is a world without the 9 to 5 something to fear or something to be excited about? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a question worth pondering. And the report really doesn't sugarcoat things. I mean, it opens with some pretty startling predictions. McKinsey, for example, predicts something like 800 million jobs lost to automation by 2030.
800 million, that's a staggering number. And it's not just about, robots taking over, is
No,
it?
no, exactly. The report argues that it's more about AI changing the very nature of work itself. Imagine a world where your job description changes every few years, not because you switched careers, but because AI redefined your role. Some tasks will vanish entirely and new ones will emerge that we can't even conceive of right now.
It's kind of like trying to explain social media to someone from the 1980s. They just wouldn't have the framework to understand it.
Exactly. And the report also emphasizes that this shift won't be evenly distributed. Some sectors, like manufacturing, are already seeing rapid automation, while others that require those uniquely human skills, creativity, empathy, complex problem solving, those are going to be less susceptible, at least for now.
So we're not all going to be replaced by robots tomorrow. But this is definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. But what about the human cost of all this? I mean, losing a job is a lot more than just losing a paycheck, right?
Oh, absolutely. The report draws on research by Jenny Brand that highlights the deep impact job loss can have on people's lives, the stress, the isolation, even increased risk of health problems. It's about losing routine, losing social connections, losing a sense of purpose. Work for many people is a big part of their identity.
It really makes you wonder, what would you miss the most if your job suddenly disappeared? What parts of your work give you that sense of meaning? It's a question we all need to ask ourselves, I think.
Absolutely. And that's why the report stresses the need to be proactive.
Mm.
We need to start preparing for this future of work now, equipping ourselves with the skills that AI can't replicate, what the report calls, those AI resistant abilities.
So what are these magical future-proof skills?
Hmm.
Is it all about learning to code? Because honestly, that's a little intimidating for me.
Well, coding is certainly valuable, but the report and even the World Economic Forum point to a broader set of skills: critical thinking, creative problem solving, emotional intelligence. And maybe even more crucial is this idea of adaptability itself, the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn as the world changes around you.
It's like having a mental toolkit that you can constantly upgrade and adapt to whatever challenges come your way.
Exactly. And luckily, there are tons of resources out there to help us build these skills.
Yeah.
Online learning platforms like Coursera, ADX, even vocational training programs that focus on these future proof abilities. And so much of it is geared towards working adults too, which is fantastic.
So it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving in this new world. But the report doesn't stop there. It actually goes beyond traditional jobs altogether and starts talking about meaningful activities beyond the 9 to 5 grind.
That's right. The report suggests that as AI takes over those routine tasks, we might actually have a chance to redefine what a fulfilling life looks like. It's about recognizing that work isn't the only path to purpose and meaning.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What does the report propose?
Well, for starters, it suggests strengthening social safety nets, not just traditional unemployment insurance, but even exploring more radical ideas, like a universal basic income.
Now, that's definitely a hot topic. The report actually makes a case for UBI.
It does, particularly in light of AI's potential to disrupt traditional employment. The idea is that everyone receives a basic income regardless of their job status, providing a kind of cushion as we navigate this transition.
I can see how that would alleviate some anxieties. But doesn't it raise some questions, too? Like, how do we fund it? And what about people's motivation to work if they're guaranteed a basic income?
Those are all valid concerns, and the report acknowledges them. But it argues that UBI is worth serious consideration, especially given the scale of the changes we're facing. Plus, there are already pilot programs happening globally. That can give us valuable insights.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those play out. So what other meaningful activities does the report highlight?
One area it focuses on is investing in community infrastructure. Think community centers, after school programs, volunteer initiatives, even access to mental health resources and affordable childcare. It's about creating those spaces and opportunities for people to connect, contribute, and find support within their communities.
So it's not just about handouts, it's about empowering people to build a life with purpose, even if traditional jobs look different in the future. I like that.
Exactly. And the report even highlights specific examples, like AmeriCorps connecting people with community service opportunities, or the Aspen Institute, which is doing some fascinating work on redefining work and exploring what it means to find meaning beyond the traditional 9 to 5.
I'm seeing a theme here. It's about fostering that sense of belonging and contribution, whether or not it's tied to a paycheck.
Precisely. And to support that, the report also advocates for more flexible work arrangements. Think sabbaticals, extended leave for personal development, or even pursuing creative passions. Imagine a world where taking a year off to travel or write a book isn't seen as a luxury, but as a normal part of a fulfilling life.
I can get behind that. It seems like the report is really pushing for a fundamental shift in how we value work and define success.
You hit the nail on the head. It's challenging that notion that a high-paying job is the only measure of a life well lived. The report calls for recognizing and valuing the contributions of people who find fulfillment outside of traditional career paths.
So we're talking artists, volunteers, community leaders, caregivers, all those roles that are essential to a thriving society, but often undervalued.
Exactly. It's about celebrating diverse talents and acknowledging that there are many paths to a meaningful life. Of course, shifting societal values is a tall order.
For sure. But the report offers some practical ideas. It suggests launching public awareness campaigns that showcase those diverse paths to fulfillment. Imagine seeing billboards celebrating the achievements of social entrepreneurs alongside CEOs. That would be pretty cool.
I agree. And the report also emphasizes the role of education in this shift. It's not just about teaching job skills, but about cultivating critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and an appreciation for the uniquely human qualities that AI can't replicate.
So it's about preparing young people not just for the workforce, but for a life of purpose, however they choose to define it.
Precisely. And finally, the report highlights the importance of role models, who embody this broader definition of success, people making a real difference in unexpected ways. They mention Ashoka Changemakers as a prime example, an organization that supports social entrepreneurs tackling global challenges.
It's about showing people that you don't need a corner office or a fancy title to make a meaningful contribution. There are countless ways to leave your mark on the world.
Exactly. It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often equates success with material wealth and traditional career paths.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. AI is really pushing us to rethink not just how we work, but what it even means to live a good life.
Yeah, it's definitely a societal shift as much as a technological one.
Yeah.
I think the key takeaway from the report is that we're not just passive bystanders in this revolution. We have agency. We have choices to make about the future we want to create.
And that future doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. The report highlights a lot of potential positives. Investing in human skills, fostering those meaningful activities beyond traditional jobs, even challenging our definition of success. It's exciting, but it also feels like a huge undertaking.
Of course. And the report doesn't shy away from that. In fact, it calls for more research into some of the big unanswered questions surrounding AI, its impact on different industries, the ethical considerations, even the best ways to implement something like UBI.
So it's not just about coming up with all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and being willing to explore different possibilities.
Exactly. And it's going to require a lot of collaboration, governments, businesses, educational institutions, all working together to navigate these uncharted waters. It's a big responsibility, but it also presents an incredible opportunity.
And for our listeners out there, that's where you come in. What are you most curious about when it comes to AI in the future? What questions keep you up at night? The report suggests focusing on the ethical implications of AI in different sectors, but that's a pretty broad topic. What specific areas would you like to see explored further?
It's a question worth pondering. And, if you're eager to delve deeper into this whole fascinating subject, I highly recommend checking out the full AI Revolution report by SW and Associates. It's definitely a thought-provoking read.
We'll be sure to include a link in the show notes. And remember, the future is being written right now. We all have a role to play in shaping it. Let's make it a future where humans and AI can coexist, where everyone has the chance to find meaning and purpose, whether it's through traditional work or something entirely new.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's a future worth fighting for.
So keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions. And as always, keep diving deep. We'll catch you on the next episode.